Here we have the inside of the 2019 Benimar Benivan 120. If we firstly come to the main control panel, just here, we can turn the 12 volt on. Once we've done this, we then have beneath it the control for the top lighting. All other lighting is then individually controlled on their own switches. We then have water pump on and off. Water pump needs to be on so we can get water out of the taps, flush the toilet and fill the boiler if it's been drained. We then have awning light on and off, and then this one here will give us information. So if we just return back to the beginning, so it's letting us know that we're using the leisure battery, giving us the time and letting us know what version of software it's running. And this is a Sargent EC362 control panel. If we now press again, you'll see that the leisure battery is currently being charged as we're hooked up to the main supply, and that the vehicle battery is at 13.5 volts. This is also being charged by the solar panel. How much water is in the fresh tank and the waste tank. Battery selection, so if I now press this one here, you'll see we've now flicked over and we're now running the back end of the van off the vehicle battery, but because we're hooked up to the main supply, this is now the battery we are charging. And if I press again, we've now gone back to the leisure. Adjust the time. And then back to the beginning again. In the center here, we just have light switches. And then next we have the control panel for the Truma heating and hot water. If we now press the button just here, the panel will come on. You always need to make sure that this control panel is on first before turning this one on, because if it's not, as you'll see if I now turn this off, an error code will appear, and W255H is just letting us know that it doesn't have a 12 volt feed. So as soon as we turn on the control panel and we now come back to it, you'll see it now disappears. So as you can see, as I rotate, the icons flash. If we start with the first icon here, this is for your heating. So if I now click on it, the heating is off. If I now rotate the button, we can pick whatever temperature we would like it to be inside the van, right the way up to a rather toasty 30 degrees. So if I now click on it and store it in, you'll now see a flame has appeared above. That little flame there just represents the heating system, and it's just letting you know that you've set a parameter. Whenever the heating is actually in operation, this flame will begin to flash, and it will continue to flash until it achieves the temperature you have asked. So once it achieves 30 degrees in here, it would then go to a solid state. If we now click again, we can then rotate to the next icon, and this one here is for your hot water. So again, if I now click on it, hot water is off. If I rotate, we can heat hot water in eco mode, which will give us a temperature of about 40 degrees. We can heat in hot, which will give us a temperature of about 60 degrees. And we can also perform a boost on the boiler. The boost was mainly designed for if there's going to be more than one of you having showers in quick succession of each other, or if you would just like a longer shower. If I now perform the boost, you will see that if the heating's running, it will turn off, as it needs to use that extra power to perform the boost. And if I now drop it back into eco mode, you'll see the heating comes back on, and again the water icon will continue to flash until the temperature you have asked has been achieved. If we now rotate to the next icon, this one here is power source. So we are currently using mains electricity using 2 kilowatts. If I rotate the button, we can lower the consumption to 1 kilowatt. So if we're on a low amp site, this way we can hopefully prevent ourselves from tripping. We can run in dual fuel mode, so we can run on a mixture of gas and mains at 2 kilowatt. Especially handy in the winter months if you want to get up to temperature nice and quickly. It will only use the gas as it is required. And then gas and mains at 1 kilowatt. And then lastly, if we have no main supply, we can solely run on gas. After power source, we then have the circulation fan for the heating system. So at the moment the fan is in eco mode. We can turn the fan up to high if required. We can also use that fan to vent the van. If I now turn off hot water and the heating and return to it, we can now put that fan on in vent mode, and it will have a fan speed of 1 to 10, with 10 being the fastest. And if I then return to it, we can then turn the vent back off again. If we now drop to the lower icons, this first one here is for a basic timer. If I now click on it, we can set a start time and then an end time, and then we just pick what we would like on within that time period. And then lastly, timer off or on. If I now activate the timer icon will come up there, and now within that time period those settings would apply. If I now return to it, we can turn the timer back off, and when we go back to it, we can then alter it again. The next icon is clock set. And then lastly, next to the little symbol there, just letting us know we have main supply connected, we have the settings menu. And within that, we have offset, which is just for the thermostat. So if you don't think it's quite correct, you can just slightly adjust it. Temperature, if you prefer it in Celsius or Fahrenheit. Brightness of the screen. 12 or 24-hour clock. Language. Index, which is more for the technicians, it just lets them know what software it's running. And then lastly, full factory reset. From time to time, these control panels will throw up error codes, as you saw if we don't turn this control panel off before turning this one off, or we don't turn this one on before turning this one on. You will get a little error code that will appear. Other error codes you can get are if you're trying to run it on main supply and you don't have mains connected, or if you're trying to run it on gas and your gas has run out, etc. But 9 times out of 10, as long as you rectify the problem, the error codes will disappear. If you've tried everything, even the good old-fashioned turn it off, turn it on, which is literally just hold the button in, if when you turn it back on you still have an error code, I do always suggest just doing the factory reset, because from time to time these control panels can glitch. This particular Truma system can be run via an app. So if you download the Truma app onto your device, what you will then need to do is launch it. When you launch it, you will see a button that needs to be pressed that says remote control. If you then press that, it will then give you instructions on how to connect. It will firstly ask you to come to the iNet box, which is located in this overhead locker just here. It will then ask you to press the Bluetooth button just here. Once you press the Bluetooth button, you will then commence connecting up to this particular box from the app. Once you've connected, you will then be able to control your heating and your hot water locally via Bluetooth. What you can also do if you want is purchase a pay-as-you-go SIM card, which goes in the slot here where my finger is. Register this through the app and then control your heating and your hot water from much further afield. Next we have the two gas burners. Just push in, twist and press the igniter. And then beneath this we have the microwave that will work when you're hooked up to main supply. It is always advisable to remove the plate for travel. Behaves like most microwaves. You have your quick start, stop just here, power, etc. there. Rotate for time as well. Beneath it you will find the location of the water pump, and above where the microwave is plugged in you will also find in here the majority of the gas isolation taps for the van. They are all in the on position, and this one here is for the hob. Then we have the fridge and your heating and your hot water. I always personally say that if you do smell gas in the van, instead of isolating these, just go to the source and actually isolate the bottle underneath. Across from the microwave we have the Dometic Fridge. On and off on this one here. We have main supply on this button here. We then have gas. These particular fridges will auto ignite themselves. If it does fail to light due to the fact that the gas is either turned off or if you've run out of gas, etc., it has a reset button just here. The last one is 12 volt maintain for when we are driving. So currently it will flash and we will get a beeping noise because we have not got the engine running. We then have temperature control just here, and then open just here, and we have the removable freezer box. To vent when not in use, you can use this little bit here, just push in, slide out, and then this will hold the door on a jar. Above we have the wardrobe, and in here we have the table and pole, which then locate either into the hole in the floor just here or at the front of the van. And you'll also find at the front of the van we have the larger table just here, also tucked just behind the awning winding handle just here. We also have a few 12 volt fuses. They are all labelled up and they are for bits and bobs more on the outside of the van, like marker lights. If we now go into the washroom, we have the shower just here and the shower curtain. We have the Thetford toilet. The bowl does swivel. To open to the cassette, use the grey lever just here and then push to flush. When on these particular ones, when we first push the button, we will activate the fan underneath, and then when we press again we will then perform the flush. If you do not want the fan to spin, you can press the pause button just here. Level indicator just here, so this will then let you know when the cassette needs emptying, and then close the cassette back up again. If this has been left open and you try to remove the cassette from the outside, it will not come out. And then tucked just in here we have the basin itself. with this particular basin, to empty, just slowly just push back and it will then drain off. Do not push it back too quickly, or otherwise the water will then just slosh out of here. And then above we have the vanity unit. If we now move to the back of the van and we go underneath the bench seat just here, we have the leisure battery just here. If we then open the door just here, we have the consumer unit. So we have on here the trip switches. So we have the 3 individual MCBs, the main RCD and the test button just here, and they are all labelled up just here. So if something's not working on mains, just check to see whether or not you've tripped. Beside it we have the 12-volt fuses, and again they're all labelled up, so if something's not working on 12-volt, just check to see whether or not a fuse is blown. On the top of the consumer unit we have isolator switches for components that use main supply. So the green one is for the battery charger, so if we turn this off we will not be charging either the leisure battery or the vehicle battery via the main supply. And then we have the amber one here for the heating and hot water. Again, if we turn that off and then we try to fire up the Truma control panel and use it on mains, we will get an error code. These are again more for maintenance, so they can be left alone. Lastly, we have the full system shutdown button, so if you're not using the motorhome for long periods of time, you can press this button to kill any residual draw on the leisure battery. The main 12-volt fuse for the battery is just located just here. Also in here we have the Truma boiler itself. To drain the boiler down for winterization, it's done just on the yellow lever just here. So firstly make sure the water pump is turned off and then flap it up like so. To refill, flap back over, fill up your fresh water tank and then turn the water pump on, and the water pump will then begin to prime the boiler back up again. You will usually need to open your taps to blow out any air that may be in the system. Once the water's running freely, close back down again and then the system will fully prime. In the overhead locker just here you will find the solar panel, regulator and controller. So you will see we have a rocker switch just here. If it's in the middle, we've turned the solar panel off. If we flick up to position 1, we're using the solar panel to charge the vehicle battery, and it will then give us a charge status just here, so you'll see at the moment it's as good as fully charged. And then if we flick down, we then can charge the leisure battery.